So here's the following problem. I have this flight controller, it's an F3, it's a Piko BLX. Okay, and in Betaflight I cannot select my SBUS receiver there on the configuration page, so it's always returning to Spectrum. So if I select SBUS and save and reboot, LEDs are flashing, okay, configuration, and it's always returning to Spectrum. Okay, the problem is here, Betaflight 3.0. The version of the firmware is too old. So I have to update the firmware of this flight controller, but it's not going to work that easily. So if I unplug the USB of the flight controller, in order to get it into bootloader mode, I should join these two where it says boot. So I have to join those two, let's say with a screwdriver, and then plug in the USB. So let's try that one. So let's place this there between those two connections and plug in the USB into the computer. It seems to be okay because there are no LEDs flashing. If it's in DFU mode, then the LEDs should not flash. If I start Betaflight, I don't get DFU there. That's my problem. So update firmware, it's in COM, it's not in DFU. If I load my firmware local, it's on the desktop, it's this 4.0, open, and flash firmware. No response from the bootloader, programming failed. So in this case, we have to update the firmware in a different manner. So first of all, install this program, Dfu SE demo. It was downloaded once from that address. So install this one. So next, it's already installed, but let's put it to repair. Next, install and finish. Okay, now I should get here Dfu File Manager and Dfu SE demo. Go to Dfu File Manager and we have to generate a Dfu file from a Hex file. So I downloaded my Betaflight 4.0 firmware from this address once, but I cannot find it there anymore. So I will generate from this file, which is a Hex file, another file which is a Dfu file. Let's just delete these and start from the beginning. So I will select that one. Click OK here. S19 or Hex to select that file. S19 or Hex. Select the newer firmware 4.0. That one is on the flight controller currently. Open and generate. Give a file name. I will get exactly that file name. Copy, paste it there, and it will be a Dfu file. And click on save. Success. Okay, and there's the file. And it is a Dfu extension file. Now close this one, the Dfu File Manager. Open Dfu SE demo. Now here we should get Dfu, but for that we have to hold down those contacts again on the flight controller, so we don't have there anything. So once again, the USB of the flight controller is not yet connected. Hold those two connections with, let's say, a screwdriver, and meanwhile plug in the USB cable. So here's the flight controller. Join those two together with the head of the screwdriver and plug in the USB cable. No LEDs are flashing, so that's good. Here on Dfu SE demo, we have STM in Dfu mode. So if you don't have that, it's not going to work. We have only that one. Now use this choose button, don't use that one, this lower one. Choose and select the Dfu file that you just created. It's here on the desktop. So it's that one, Dfu file, and open. File correctly loaded and upgrade. Click on the upgrade button and yes. Now it's erasing. No LEDs are flashing. Download phase. So we are writing the firmware onto the Piko BLX flight controller. Upgrade successful. Okay, now we can close the program. Let's cycle it. So unplug it and plug it in again. Now we have LEDs. Now let's start Betaflight and connect to it. connect. Okay, so if I move this one, it's moving there also. Okay, and now it's not Betaflight 3.0, but it's Betaflight 405. Okay, and now if I go to the ports, let's use UART1, the serial RX, and save and reboot in the lower right corner. Back to ports, it remained there, so only this one is enabled. That's by default, you cannot even turn it off. Okay, and if I go to configuration, SBUS is already selected, serial based receiver, and SBUS is there. And by the way, here at receiver I also have these colors. Before everything was totally white and gray, just like here. And if I power on my radio, the receiver is not yet green. I have to connect the power also. Connect the power. Move that radio further away a little bit. Now it's green there on the receiver also.